Hey guys, Riley Ringgold here with Team Ringgold over at Keller Williams, and Kelsey and I have owned our first investment property for just about 4 years now. We purchased it in October of 2020, and so I wanted to get a video out here of kind of what our journey with that property looked like, what it's made us so far, and just kind of go through the numbers for you. It's going to be a longer video, but I hope you guys get some value out of it. So some of you have probably heard this story before, but Kelsey and I actually bought the property that we were currently renting back in 2020. We had lived there for 3 years and we're paying about $850 a month, and finally decided we were ready to buy a house and made an offer to the seller. We actually purchased the property for $80,000. The seller contributed about $2,500 towards our closing cost, and we had a 3.5% FHA loan. We got the property bought for just over $4,000 out of pocket. The interest on this loan that we got was at 3.25%, so pretty good interest rate. We didn't keep it for long, and we'll kind of talk about that as we get a little bit deeper into this. But then from October 2020 to about September, when did we buy our next house? Yeah, September of 2021, we changed our rent from $850 to about $630 is what our monthly mortgage payment was, and that was including insurance and taxes and everything that goes into that mortgage payment. So we lived there for a year at $630 a month, and we did some work to the property. And then we bought our next primary residence where we live now. And so what we did at that point is we took a HELOC out on the property. Because we bought the property in 2020, towards the end of 2020, and 2021, there was a pretty big spike of appreciation, and I think we bought it under market value. We had a little bit of equity in the property, so we got a HELOC on the property, which is a home equity line of credit of $10,000. And what that allowed us to do after we moved out, we actually repainted the property, redid some trim. We finished a laundry room on the back of the property so that it was complete. And then we put new cabinets, countertops, and appliances in the property so that we could rent it out. So with that new HELOC, we ended up, because that HELOC we had to make payments on. The payments on that range from anywhere from $180 to $190, but we were moved out at that point. So we used the $10,000 HELOC to renovate the home, and then we finally got a renter in there the middle of December of 2021. This renter had a 12-month lease signed for $1,200 a month. She only paid about half of the first month's rent because she moved in on the 15th of December in 2021. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but wanted to go over kind of what our mortgage payments were, what our HELOC payments were, and what our rent was on the property. So total rent for year one was $13,819.20. The total mortgage payments that we ended up paying with the HELOCs included was $11,445. Rent minus mortgage you would think would equal profit, but there's also maintenance and repairs and other things that get tacked onto this as an expense. So that first year that we had it as a rental, of course we had lived there, but there were things that needed to be fixed that we didn't necessarily do whenever we rehabbed the property to rent it out. So there was $981 of maintenance and expenses that came out that first year off the line. So profit the first year was $1,617, which doesn't sound like a lot at all, especially because we had just put $10,000 into the property. We were making extra payments on that, but at least we were in the green. $1,617 was year one. So the thing that kind of changed that, why the payments, you think about, well, you guys had payments around $830 and you were renting out for $1,200 a month. This math isn't adding up. Well, in May of 2022, we actually refinanced the mortgage. So we got a new mortgage, we paid off our original loan, and we paid off that HELOC. And we were able to pocket $13,045 out of our equity. So we did a cash out refinance on it. This new loan was $106,400, and it was a 5.95%. So we took a big hit, but we needed that cash to go and buy our second property. We're not going to talk about that here today, but I will include that $13,000 as profit from this property because we did cash it out of the equity. So year one, not too bad. Really taught us a lot, taught us how to, keep our books, taught us how to squeeze some equity out of property. We learned a lot in year one. Year 2 was kind of a roller coaster because this current tenant that we had that was so good to us, she never had any problems, she always paid on time, decided she was moving out about the middle of the year. So we ended up getting a bump on rent by $50. So we were now renting this property out for $12.50, and she ended up getting a pet too in the middle of the first lease. So that was added in, that was part of the rent numbers, but $25 a month is what we charge for a pet. So she was out by July of 2023. We then, cleaned up the property, repainted, did some things, and we got a new tenant to sign August 1st for $1,400 a month. And he was set to have a 12-month lease. We were super happy. Seemed like a pretty cool guy. Come to find out, about November, 4 months later, he bought a house and he had to cancel his lease early. Our lease termination fee is 2 times month's rent, so we ended up getting 6 months rent out of this tenant when he was only there for 4 months. But that's because, he signed a 12-month lease. There's got to be some repercussions for ending a lease early. He moved out 11/30 of 2023, and we've now got this same tenant that's been in there since December of 2023. They're paying $1,400 a month, $25 pet fee. This is the end of year 2. Year 2, our rent was $18,750. Our maintenance and expenditures on that was $2,000, and our mortgage was $15,084.21. So end of year 2, our profit was $1,665.79. That's not including the profit we made from year 1. This is just end of the year 2023 profit. So now our third year in business, year 3, 2024, we had 1 tenant in there, haven't had any issues. We did collect some late fees, so I've included those here in the rent, but we've got about $17,390 in rent, pet fees, and late fees. And then our mortgage was $12,397.20 paid over the year. So profit for year 3, $4,992.80. So now that we finally get the property stabilized, we're not, switching out tenants every couple of months. We've got some good tenants in there, really take care of the property. It's finally making us some money. So now let's look at overall numbers. We've owned this property since 2020, lived there for a year, fixed it up, got a renter in there. We've had it rented for the last 3 years. Profits from rent total $8,275.84. That cash out refi we did year 1 got us $13,045. Now, something else that you get whenever you're renting a property to somebody is loan pay down. They are making rent payments. You're turning around paying the mortgage. That means your principal balance is going down on the loan. So from our $106,400 loan that we ended up getting in May of 2022, we are now down to $98,480. That means that we have paid down $7,920 on that principal pay down. That we have not included in the profit, right? So we're going to tack that as profit as principal pay down. And then the equity growth that we've got, we bought it at $80,000, but then we did that cash out refinance. So we had our loan at $106,000. Our equity today stands at $31,500. So if we add all of those profits up, if we add the equity, if we had the debt pay down, if we add that cash out refinance we made, if you had the profits from the rent, since we bought the house in 2020, remember we only paid $4,100 out of pocket to close on that deal. We are sitting positive $60,740, which is crazy. This is the power of real estate. This is why I push all of these ideas out on Facebook, because we had no idea what we were doing. We were just married, had our first kid, planned on moving into a bigger house, and decided let's give this rental thing a go. And this first property was key in the avalanche that has come after it. Like I said, we used that cash out refinance money to buy the second property. And then having both of those assets allowed us to buy the third, fourth, fifth property. And once we go into ownership on those a little bit longer, I'll run some more videos like this on those other individual properties. But this is why it's so important. And sure, some of you might say, well, you got it at 3.25%. You had your seller pay closing cost. It was a different market in 2020. And yes, it was. But here's the thing. It's going to be a different market in 2030. If you think that you want to sit around and wait for interest rates to come down or wait for prices to come down, you're missing the boat. If you have any inclination of growing your net worth through real estate or building wealth through real estate, you've got to act now. There's always a deal in any market. You don't have to buy retail. You can buy undervalued property like we do, but getting in the market sooner than later is going to pay you dividends in the future. So I hope this helped, and I don't make videos like this to boast. I just make videos like this to kind of show you evidence that it can work, it can be profitable, and really anybody can do it. Hope everybody has a great day. Thanks. Bye.